Hi there, Elevated Planet community. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet, and today I am back again, thankfully, with Mr. Chris Styles of 365 Pin Code. How are you doing, Chris?
Hello, John. It's been a while,
Yes.
but it's fabulous. It's fabulous to be back and been busy with some in-depth research, especially during 2022. And hopefully, what I will share with you and your Elevated Planet community this evening will shed some really, really interesting light, especially on timelines. Because, John, I think this is the thing that's got everybody scratching their head. There is so much anxiety in the system at the moment. Is there a war? Isn't there a war? What is happening? Putin, the Ukraine, this, that, tanks coming from America. I see that on the news feeds tonight. Tanks going to the Ukraine through Poland, etc., etc. What is happening? When is it going to start? How long is this going to last? And the very interesting thing for me tonight is having done in-depth and analytics on the intelligent mathematical blueprints of a lot of the major players. So here we're talking the political leaders of the countries, etc., etc. I believe I have timelines of intelligence now that I can share with you, which will really start to give people a real insight as to where we are going, this dark period, then the shift, etc., etc., and if you will, when the real change happens, John.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this because I've got an awareness, the great awakening, the great reset, however we want to phrase this. There's a lot going on. These are times of biblical proportions coming up as I see it. And I value your research that you've done in the past. You've been incredibly accurate on so many things that I know these times are not always going to be easy, but nevertheless, anything that gives us a heads up, anything that helps us to be prepared for what is going to happen. Forewarned is forearmed.
Well, John, absolutely. And the astonishing thing, as human futurology research, which is what I call it, is evolving, it is just getting more and more and more accurate. And as a scientific researcher and someone who had a mathematician as a father, it is incredibly important for me to have accuracy and to be delivering lines of sight and intelligence that has actually got a robustness to it. Isn't just a way with the fairies or a thumb suck. And John, there is no doubt about it that we are really, really sailing into the teeth of the storm now. Dark, dark, dark times are upon us. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that. You've just got to look at the news and you realize that there are very, very, very dark and dangerous times that are looming. But what exactly is going on? What is this narrative? What are we seeing? What are some of the key strategic takeouts that we can glean from all of this? And, John, I really like to use numbers. And the thing is, the one thing I do know, and you've experienced firsthand, the human futurology research that I'm doing, the way I'm putting it together, the charts that I'm building, the views that I'm constructing, the numbers are laser accurate. The sequences, the way the codes map together, it is very obvious that as much as we may not have understood it, our lives are a highly, highly organized mathematical design from birth through to death, whenever that is. And we are without doubt walking a journey that is very, very, very intelligently coded at experiential level. Therefore, people are coming into your life, events are happening at a certain time, all according to a very, very, very grand organized design. But, John, like everything, from time to time, I might get the interpretations of these numbers slightly wrong. This is a brand new field. No one would ever have thought of a field of human futurology, being able to take a forward-looking view of an individual and of humanity or for humanity. Yet this is what I'm busy with. And this is what I'm going to attempt to share with you tonight, as I say, to try and give everybody out there a more informed timeline of what is happening through the major players and what we could be seeing and why. Because I think that, as you say, John, starts to give you a feel for when major shifts are going to happen. I think one of the major problems that most people have is they think everything's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
The world's going to end tomorrow. This is going to end tomorrow. I think one of the most dangerous hashtags that I see on the internet at the moment, especially on Twitter and on the social media feeds, is these hashtags where somebody's got to go now, or something's got to end now. It's almost this now consciousness, without actually realizing that there's an entire narrative that has got to play out before the now actually becomes the then.
Yes.
And on the back of that, I think there's a lot of frustration, a lot of people just wanting things to happen. If there's a war, let it start now, let it end now so that we can get on with our lives. How much chaos are we going to endure? For how long? That stems from ignorance. It stems from lack of understanding. And I certainly hope that what we're going to do tonight and the information I'm going to share will start to bring real granularity into the timeline. And I'm going to be talking to a timeline, John, that stretches from 2020 through to 2030. So it's an entire decade, basically starting, not surprisingly, with COVID.
Yes. Okay. I'm interested to hear this because, as you say, I mean, I've been the recipient of readings that you've done, not just for me, but for Jole as well, as my business partner here, but also my life partner, Emma. And the startling accuracy of it, I'm used to it now. But it kind of beggars belief versus the standard westernized, cultured version of way of looking at life. We're encouraged to believe we are the meat bag, and that we can die, and that we should be fearful, and division energy comes into it, and all these kind of things that we've been programmed to believe as reality. Whereas something like this is it doesn't fit with this at all. But what it does do is it fits with a broader reality, which I've learned is actually the truth, if you like. This is the way it is.
John, who would have actually thought that through the intelligent application of numbers and predictive modeling, that one could actually accurately map the life journey of a given individual with tremendous precision, right down to life and game-changing events. That, firstly, is the massive mental scotoma that most people cannot even believe. So the thing is here, John, and this is something that I think you and I can get into right at the end of the interview, the real, what I think is the meat of all of this, is what exactly is going on? What really is the truth? If we are, you, me, every single person out there, if we are an intelligent mathematical blueprint, and we are working a journey that has been very, very, very carefully calculated, then who or what calculated this? And I think that the evidence, and again, thank you to you and Elevated Platform for the work that you're doing to provide me with a platform like this to share this kind of research and intelligence. I genuinely believe, John, that the video that you and I are doing tonight, the recording, the chat, is starting to put out real hard evidence out there of the fact that we are without doubt living in a simulation. The thing is, who is controlling or what is controlling this simulation? But there is enough evidence now that, and I have spent thousands and thousands of hours researching this to the point now where the numbers and the charts and that are laser accurate. And I'm going to talk to stuff tonight which absolutely proves it. Justin Trudeau, Boris Johnson, Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Volodymyr Zelensky, Jacinda Ardern, the global leaders, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, etc., etc. I'm going to be referring to their blueprints tonight and sharing stuff. And the thing is, it's all there. It is absolutely all there. Moments in time where you could see a critically important mathematical sequence came in. And that was exactly the year when Trudeau became Prime Minister. That was exactly the year when Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. John, I've got way, way, way too much hard evidence around these mathematical blueprints for them not to be real, to be true. So you and Elevated Planet, thank you, are actually helping me take a very new and controversial yet truthful message out into the public domain. So I think, John, without further ado, let's really, if you will, get into the blood and guts of where we are now, because it really is a messy global situation, isn't it?
It is. The conflict energy out there, the division energy that keeps getting sown. There's a lot of distortion out there, and there's a lot of rhetoric and agendas being played out, people being manipulated. And for why, right? And what is this that's coming up that is so significant?
Well, John, I think firstly, and I know that you are aware of this, having been diagnosed with Asperger's and high functioning autism, so I score very high on the autism spectrum. There is no doubt that I see and interact with life through a very, very different set of filters to most people. So I am always looking to try and make sense of things through numbers, through number patterns, through number sequences, etc., etc. I think a lot of that originates from my dad, who obviously had a massive impact on me as a child, being a mathematician, always forcing me to be able to quantify and qualify things, etc., etc. And if I couldn't do that, chasing me away, if you will, in a kind way, and saying, look, just don't bring rubbish to me. Bring me proof, bring me evidence. Now, because I look and think about the world in a different way, I'd like to start by sharing how I look and think about the world with you and your viewers, so that they can start to kind of portal into my mind.
Yeah.
So let's take a big step back. This year is 2023. So if we split the numbers 2023 and we add them together, we get the number 7. So what is the number 7? The number 7 is the number that deals with intelligence. It is the number that deals with logic. It is the number that deals with cosmic intelligence or cosmic consciousness. It is also, John, the number that deals with secrecy. It is a very, very, very intelligent, very secretive energy. Okay? And also, the purpose of the number 7 is the number 7 exists in order to encourage people to go and question, to search for truth. So I wouldn't be in the slightest bit surprised, John, if later on in this year, you find people gravitating to you, an elevated planet, en masse, because they are starting to search for a new truth. That is exactly what the number 7 does. So the thing about this year is it's got the number 7 energy basically driving the theme of the year. Okay. The number 2022, which would have totaled a 6, was 3 2s, a 0. And of course, there it was just massive emotional fallout. And we've already discussed that in a previous video that you and I did. So the thing is, John, wherever the number 7 features in a person's 365 PIN code or intelligent mathematical blueprint, it is going to target that person very intensely. So let's take a massive step back from the big picture. Let's rather start just to go down into individual packets, if you will, pockets of information. One of the major players in the world right now is Vladimir Putin. So if 2023 is a number 7 year, the thing is, to what degree is this number 7 going to directly affect, or is directly affecting, the chart of Putin? That's an intelligent question to ask. Well, here's the answer. Vladimir Putin was born on the 7th. So there's a 7. His personal energy, his personal vibration is a 7. If you actually go and you take it a little bit further, he's actually born on the 7th of October. Now, if you add those elements of his date of birth together, what you come out with is a number which reduces down to 25. And 25, 2 and 5 again give us 7. So that is what is called the life path number. So the thing about Putin is he has got a number 7 personal energy and a number 7 life path. Therefore, this year is intensely personal for him because it's impacting on him in a massive way. Now we take another step and we go and have a look at Zelensky. Volodymyr Zelensky, the chap who basically is at war with Putin. These are the two that are taking each other on. What day is Zelensky born on? He's born on the 25th. There, 2 and 5, a 7. There's another 7. Now we take a step back and we go and have a look at the leader of Poland, who has just agreed to have the tanks moved through his country in order to basically provide a lot of more muscle, if you will, into the Ukraine to be able to counter the threat of Russia. Andrzej Duda is the name of the leader of Poland. What day is this man born on? He's born on the 16th, 1 and 6, 7. So we've got 3 major players. And John, I mean, I'm just scratching the surface here. Okay, I could go on and on and on and on, but the purpose is not to bore your audience. It's to begin to get them to think about numbers, to think about number synchronicities, and the fact that energies that are flowing at any given moment within this world of ours, or this cosmos, or this universe, will directly synchronize with people who have those energies and affect them as such. So there are 3 of the major players at the moment in terms of this Russia-Ukraine war, all of whom are massively influenced by the number 7. And look at what is happening. Look at the way things are starting to move between these players. So the thing is, this year is going to massively impact or affect or ask questions, if you will, of people that are born on the 7th, that are born on the 16th, that are born on the 25th, because all of those numbers make a 7. It will also in the family or the intimate space massively affect people who are born in July, because July is the 7th month of the year. In the world, people who have a number 7 energy will also experience this as well. So we're talking people born in 2014, 2005, 1996, 1987, 1978, 1969, 1960, 1951, 1942. Wherever, why? Because all of those numbers reduce down to a 7. So firstly, these are the people that are going to be massively influenced or targeted by the number 7 energy of this year, right? So now that we've just kind of broken this up into these macro pockets of people who are going to be affected, and immediately made a connection, gosh, that's really interesting, between these people, Putin, Duda, and Zelensky. Now we take a big step back and we just look at it and say, what is this number 7 energy all about? The number 7 energy, because it is very logical, because it is secretive, the other thing about it is it's also very cold and it's also very clinical, okay? Yeah. So it is the polar opposite of the number 2, where the number 2 is very cooperative, and where the number 2 is the feminine energy. The 7 is exactly the opposite. It's the iceberg. It is the cold, clinical energy that can basically cut. So that is the nature of this year. And look at how cold it is out there. Look at how clinical it is out there. Look at the way, if you will, chess pieces are being moved on the board to line up what seems to be a very, very ugly war. Mm. Now we take a step back and we look at all of this and we say, okay, what about the players in this arena? So now we have a look at Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, as you will know, is the person who is beating the drum the loudest on an international level in terms of mustering support for the Ukraine. So when I run his intelligent mathematical blueprint, what do I see? I see a convergence of 5s. So that means that for this year, in his blueprint, there's a double 5, and wherever you see too much of one number, it's always an indication of risk. So there's a double 5, which means he's relentlessly driving change and freedom, because that's what the number 5 stands for. Then if we draw even further into the quarters, because what I have done, John, in the last couple of months is refine my mathematical model, where I'm now not able to just get lines of code for years, but also get lines of code for quarters. So January to March, April to June, et cetera, et cetera. What do we see for Boris Johnson? We see that the number 5 also dominates the first quarter of this year for him, 2023. So from January through to March for Boris Johnson, we're seeing 3 5s line up, which means that he is absolutely going to do everything in his power to push the boundary. And that's exactly what he is doing.
Yes.
This is why there is no doubt about it that he's the lead energy or the arrowhead in terms of mustering whatever is required in order to go up against Russia. But the question is at what cost? But this is without doubt, this is being driven. It is so clear in his numbers, because there really is, if I can put it like this, the to hell with you vibration, because that's what the number 5 is. So when you've got the 5 expressed to the power of 3, Boris is in to hell with you cubed.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I remember, if you go back to the Brexit time, when Boris was sort of like part of that campaign, he had very much a similar kind of attitude to that as well. Some of it was true. Some of it was fabricated, if you like, but a great story. But that energy was there, and it was kind of believable because there was so much energy went into it. But what we're seeing here now is a very dangerous set of circumstances, as I see it.
Well, John, to blow your mind even further, Boris Johnson has got multiple names. He's actually got 4 names. So in order to model his entire mathematical blueprint, I have to deploy a significantly more complex model than I have to for someone who's got 2 or 3 names.
Right.
When I modeled Boris Johnson's life path from birth through to the age of 100, guess what number defined his journey in concentrated format? So what I mean by that is only for this year. Guess what number defined his journey for this year, John? The number 23.
Oh, 23.
And we are in 2023.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it is absolutely astonishing. So there is the clear synchronicity. You know, when Boris Johnson's intelligent mathematical blueprint was laid down, the number that defined his life journey for this year was 23, and we are in 2023. Look at that synchronicity. This is not random, John.
Mm-mm.
This is not random. This is being organized and designed and put together, controlled, manipulated, whatever it is that you want to say, by an intelligence out there that is so far beyond our ability to comprehend. It is frightening. But there it is. So there's another huge synchronicity that is taking place, which shows this. I mean, that's it. This is the narrative of Johnson's life path.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people out there who might think he's doing right or might think he's doing wrong. For example, last night it was very interesting on GB News, Nigel Farage, who's got an hourly slot every single night. Nigel Farage was saying that he thinks Boris Johnson is running too hot at the moment. You know, he's getting ahead of himself, etc., etc. And yes, that may be true, but if you look at Boris Johnson's intelligent mathematical blueprint, he is honoring it to the T.
Yes.
So what's right and what's wrong here, John?
Right.
Now, the reason I have shared this with you is to try to create an enormous shift in people's thinking around the fact that the way we look at the world is through such dumb or ill-informed lenses.
Yes.
We are literally living in a soup of numbers that are swirling and swimming and integrating and synchronizing and coming up against each other in a positive way or in an antagonistic manner. But this is absolutely what is going on. And so the thing is, when we look at something and we think that a person is completely out of order, the very interesting thing is if you go into their intelligent mathematical blueprint, most often, they are actually just living exactly what their numbers are driving them to do at that moment in time.
Yeah, and I
mean,
think this is just quickly to say that one of the things I'm very conscious of is that we are always encouraged to judge, you know, people, situations, even when we have scant knowledge. We in our culture are encouraged to judge everything that's going on in the world, and clearly we don't have enough evidence to do so. So withholding judgment is a healthy way of looking at things, right? And to your point, if this is the way it's supposed to be, if this is part of a grand organized design, then understanding that as a fundamental starting point is important before we start to kind of throw stones or judge circumstances.
Well, John, one of the things that I am hoping, and I know this is a massive drive of Elevated Planet, is that this research, and the thing that excites me, John, is this is research. This is hard evidence. I mean, I can do this over and over and over and over and over again and give mind-blowing results. This is not a thumbsuck. This is not just a random event. You know, and this is what people say. You know, they talk about this world of spirituality, et cetera, as being woo-woo science, metaphysics, et cetera, and that's why it's got such a bad rap for such a long time. But the thing is, you know, when you start to deal with natural laws and things that can be repeated over and over and over again, now you start to move from metaphysics into science.
Yes.
And there is no doubt, John, that the work that I'm doing, and you know, which is being helped through the likes of yourselves, is delivering a new wave of science that is actually showing that we have a design that is far more complex than we can begin to understand. Therefore, if we have this design just on an individual level, and most people out there, I mean, what are there, John? 8 billion people on the planet. I guarantee you 8 billion people don't know that they've got an intelligent mathematical blueprint, nor do they understand. It's only a handful of people that know this now.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are ignorant to this fundamental truth, then how ignorant are we to actually what is going on around us? To war, to this, to famine, to et cetera. And it really begs the question, John, what is right and what is wrong?
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
And how are we interpreting right and wrong? And what if we've actually got it all wrong? Correct. Anyway, I digress, but I shared that in order to really hopefully create a mind pivot within your audience up front around numbers, and to hopefully get them really interested in what is actually coming down the line. Because here we have Putin, whose entire 365 pin code or mathematical blueprint is dominated and driven by sevens.
Yeah.
We now have this energy coming in that is absolutely impacting and influencing him. So this 2023 is a pivotal year for Putin in every single way. Now we take a step back and we say, right, so what is the timeline? If we look at what is happening, if we look at how personal this war is for Putin, and I think that's the way we've got to phrase it, how personal this war is for Putin. Yeah. Given what Johnson is doing, given the fact that America is now sending tanks, and do we really think that a war is not going to break out? Well, the war is there, but I mean a massive war.
Yes.
I think it would be exceptionally short-sighted to think that this war isn't going to really explode and, you know, go into many different countries. So therefore, I do think, in keeping with the doomsday clock, it is absolutely fair to say that we are on the brink of World War III.